Welcome to ACS Eminent Personalities Interview Series. This is Prashant Hebar from ACCS. It's been 25 years since India connected to the internet, and it is apt to be speaking with the person who made it all happen. This person foresaw the advent of data communications and how it is the right tool for a country of the size of India. He envisaged low Earth orbit satellite for data communication way back in early 80s, and within a decade saw his dream come true. He planned and oversaw the rollout of the first countrywide data network based on TCP/IP, which connected to the internet and put India on the digital world map. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am talking about Dr. Srinivasan Ramani, the only Indian who is inducted into the Internet Hall of Fame. Dr. Ramani not only got ISRO to adapt data communication in its Apple satellite, but also started the first ever postgraduate computer science course for young engineers to skill up on the much required software programming. The 1970s, 80s, and 90s were heady days for computer science, especially data communication and internet. Let's do some time travel with Dr. Ramani and understand how the things we take for granted today actually came about. Welcome, Dr. Ramani, to ACCS Eminent Personalities Interview Series. Heartiest greetings from ACCS, sir.
Thank you. I would say hello, and perhaps like any academic, do some nitpicking. And when you said that the person who made it all happen, I disagree with that. And if I may, nothing is ever done by an individual. And particularly the exciting things, I look upon life as a series of revolutions. In 1947, when India became independent, people's longevity, they did not live beyond something like 45 years or so. Life was very short. One of the good revolutions that occurred in India was the health revolution. Now we live about double the length that we used to live in those good old days. Green revolution, white revolution, we have seen so many revolutions. Without some of them, we would not be alive today. And the internet revolution was also one of them. The communications revolution, I should say. It is not just the internet. The fiber optic cables, the satellites, the new technology for the telephone exchanges, every one of them has been a revolution. Young engineers today are enjoying the solar power revolution. And we will very soon enjoy the electric car revolution. Now, if you look at any one of these revolutions, probably tens of thousands of engineers have worked on each one of them. So I should say that the telecom revolution, without the fiber optics, we would not be here today. The internet would not be what it is. Satellites were great, but the fiber optics give you a bandwidth which is amazing compared to the satellites. So lots of things have happened. And in my own work, I was just one of the 8 coordinators from 8 institutions, the IITs, the Department of Electronics, Delhi, Government of India, and these are the primary people, and my institute, which was the National Center for Software Technology. Now we are part of CDAC. And in all these 8 institutions, there were coordinators. I was one of the coordinators, except we had a special advantage. We belonged to a computer science department, which had been around 10 years before the internet revolution came. And so we had the right computer, the right software, and most important, we are in the city of Bombay. City of Bombay had excellent connectivity with the world. so we could connect up easily. So there are hundreds of people who shared all this work with me. And therefore, let me be modest. I am not the one who made it all happen. I am the one who enjoyed the benefit of working with 100 colleagues, about 10 colleagues in my institution, and about 100 colleagues in all the IITs. And so that is the story.
Wonderful, sir. It's always nice to be corrected by you. Uh, so,
Thank you.
uh, let us get back, down the memory lane, and let us look at your early days. Somewhere I have read that you loved tinkering with electronics as a school student. So, can you take us back and tell us the kind of times and what was it like in Chennai back then, as a school student and doing these things?
Yeah, I think that is a great thing to remember for me personally. But it also gives you perhaps a glance of what Chennai and Moore Market and the old magazine shops, all these were. And let me see, try and get the indication of the year. You see, I passed out of SSC at that is roughly the 10th standard, 11th standard, I think. I passed out in 1954.
Okay.
And the time I got involved with electronics was probably 1951. And I was in the 8th standard or 9th standard or something. There was a friend of mine named Mahadevan. And he and I had a fascination for electronics. And Mahadevan introduced me to the old bookshops in which we could buy magazines for 8 annas and things like that. For 8 annas, I could buy a copy of scientific. It was Popular Science in those days. We used to buy Popular Science and learn how to build a crystal radio and go to the Moore Market and buy a pair of headphones for 5 rupees. Second World War surplus phones and buy crystals and all that. I probably bought the crystal for crystal diodes, germanium crystals for 1 rupee each and things like that. So for 5 or 6 rupees, we would build ourselves a radio. And then we got ambitious enough. Popular Science told us we could build a valve radio which will receive very weak signals so that we could listen to radio Ceylon. And the thermionic valves which we could buy in those days for 6 rupees, we bought them for 6 rupees. And I think my first thermionic valve was sold to me by a man named Balan, who was running a radio shop in Tiruvannamalai. My father was working there, so I went on a holiday and went to Balan's shop and said, I want such and such a valve. He said, yes, it is 6 rupees. So I paid 6 rupees and bought the valve. And with that, we built a radio. It was fun.
Amazing, amazing. What kind? See, you talked about popular science, and I think there was popular mechanics also, and then came popular electronics. These were all the books of those days. And I remember also a lot of Russian books, mere publication books.
I used to buy them.
Yeah,
I used to buy them. Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of them, getting published, and I remember though. I was born in 1971, but those books I still remember from my father's bookshelf. How did you, from your school days, did you always thought that you would get into electronics engineering? Would you get into software? Would be unheard of in those days. Nobody would have even imagined software or computers. So, what was your thought process like when you were getting into engineering?
I think I was fortunate enough to recognize that life is very uncertain. What you want to do in life and what you end up doing are quite different. And therefore, I decided very early that I cannot afford to freeze myself into one thought, one field. And like, for instance, when I went to the engineering college, the college told me that I cannot do electronics because electronics was not available in that college. Electronics was available only in Chennai. I was studying in Coimbatore. So my college told me, you do electrical engineering, you will never be missing a job. The electricity board will always have a job for you. And if you want, you can study electronics for postgraduate degree. Well, that is one thing I should mention. The new education policy talks about freedom for the student, choices and so on. They told my sister wanted to study science. They told her, no, you can't, we don't consider a girl for studying science. There is a women's college. The seats must be filled up there first. So you study any subject there that you can study. So she studied home science. She later got to enjoy nutrition and became a professor of nutrition. But the truth is, a college telling you that you cannot study science, particularly because you are a woman and a woman college has to fill up its seats.
Amazing, those. Yeah, you're right. Those days.
What I realized was I enjoyed technology. I enjoyed particularly the edge of technology, new things. So I was interested in astronomy, space science, interplanetary travel, all kinds of things like that. And that was one area of interest. Aeronautics, and later as the computers became more and more famous, more and more accessible, I got excited about computers. And the computers was also difficult in those days. There was a friend of mine, another friend of mine named Rajagopal. And Rajagopal helped me to read the first book on computers.